They leave their husbands in the UK, come here and have fun with a black man.
Yeah.
And then go back to their husband in the UK, yeah.
Every year, thousands of women from Europe board flights to a tiny West African nation most people have never heard of.
The tourism board in Gambia has a stark warning for British tourists. The West African country says British women should stop coming to the country looking for flings with younger men.
They're not going for safaris or historical tours. They're going to meet men, young, local men.
These young men and women understand what they're putting themselves into, the risks that are involved in such a business?
I've no idea.
And what happens there has turned this small country into one of the world's most unusual tourism destinations. It's a phenomenon that flips the script on what most people think they know about sex tourism, and it's been quietly growing for decades. So what exactly is happening in this corner of Africa that draws so many Western women year after year? Gambia, a small country with a big reputation. The Republic of Gambia is one of Africa's smallest countries, covering just over 11,000 square kilometers. That makes it smaller than some European regions, roughly the size of a small German state. If you look at a map, you'll notice something strange about its shape. The entire country follows the curves of the Gambia River, creating a long, narrow strip of land that cuts through Senegal like a winding snake. It's an oddity left over from colonial boundaries that never quite made geographic sense. Despite its size, Gambia has built a reputation far beyond what you'd expect. Tourism authorities promote the country's beautiful Atlantic coastline and warm climate. The beaches are genuinely stunning, with golden sand and year-round sunshine. But that's not what Gambia has become famous for. Since the 1970s, a different kind of tourism has flourished here. The country has become known as a destination where Western women, particularly those traveling alone, come looking for romance and intimacy with local men. The economics behind the phenomenon. To understand why this phenomenon exists, you have to understand Gambia's economic reality. This is one of the poorest countries in the world. Around 60% of Gambia's 2.7 million people live on less than €1 per day. That's not an exaggeration or a rough estimate. It's the actual poverty line that the majority of the population falls below. For young men growing up in these conditions, opportunities are extremely limited. Education doesn't guarantee employment. Traditional jobs are scarce and pay almost nothing. Tourism, however, offers a different path. The country's economy relies heavily on visitors from Europe, and where there are tourists, there's money. For young Gambian men, forming relationships with foreign women isn't just about romance or physical attraction. It's often an economic survival strategy. A single tourist might spend more in one evening than a local worker earns in a month. The disparity is enormous, and both sides are usually aware of it. This economic gap creates a dynamic where relationships become complicated from the start, mixing genuine human connection with financial necessity in ways that are difficult to separate. The Beach Boys, meet the Bumpsters. Walk along any tourist beach in Gambia and you'll encounter them. Young men, usually in their 20s or early 30s, hanging around hotels, restaurants, and nightclubs. They're friendly, outgoing, and quick to strike up conversations with female tourists. Locals call them bumpsters, a term that roughly translates to hustlers or freeloaders. The name isn't meant as a compliment, but it's stuck. Bumpsters have turned approaching female tourists into something of an art form. They're charming and attentive, offering compliments freely and showing interest that many Western women say they don't receive back home. The approach is rarely crude or aggressive. Instead, it's gradual and social. They'll start with casual conversation, maybe offer to show a tourist around or suggest a local restaurant. The interaction feels organic, even though it usually follows a pattern. These men operate in groups, often staking out specific locations where they know tourists gather. There's an informal network among them, sharing information about which women are traveling alone and which seem receptive to attention. For the bumpsters, this is work, even if it doesn't look like traditional employment. Success means getting invited for drinks, meals, or more. And eventually, if things go well, they hope for ongoing financial support or even a pathway out of Gambia entirely through marriage. How the system actually works. The bumpster approach follows a fairly predictable sequence. First comes the friendly encounter, all smiles and casual chat. If the woman seems interested, the man will invest time, acting as an informal guide or companion. He'll be attentive and affectionate, creating the feeling of a holiday romance. But beneath the surface, there's usually a strategy. Once a connection is established, the conversation often shifts. The man will mention his difficult circumstances, perhaps a sick family member, or the struggle to find work. It's rarely a direct request for money at first. Instead, it's about creating sympathy and emotional investment. The woman might offer to help, buying gifts or paying for outings. What starts as small gestures can escalate. Some women end up sending money regularly after returning home, supporting a man they spent just days or weeks with. Not every bumpster is coldly calculating, though. Some do develop genuine feelings. The problem is that economic desperation and authentic emotion often exist side by side, making it nearly impossible to tell where one ends and the other begins. For many bumpsters, the ultimate goal is a visa to Europe. Marriage to a Western woman offers a legal pathway out of poverty, and some men pursue this goal with determination. They'll maintain relationships across thousands of kilometers, waiting for the opportunity to move abroad. The women's side of the story. The women who travel to Gambia for these encounters come from various backgrounds, but certain patterns emerge. Many are older, sometimes significantly older than the men they meet. Others might not fit conventional beauty standards in their home countries. Some are divorced or widowed, looking for companionship and feeling invisible in Western dating scenes. In Gambia, these women find something different. They receive attention, compliments, and physical affection without the usual barriers or rejections they might face at home. The power dynamic is reversed. They have the financial resources, which gives them a form of control they might not experience elsewhere. For some women, this is liberating. They enjoy the beaches, the weather, the food, and the company of attractive younger men without the complications of traditional relationships. Many are fully aware that money is part of the equation. They're not naive about why these men show interest, but they've made a calculated decision that the exchange is worth it. A week or two of companionship and intimacy in exchange for paying for meals and maybe some gifts seems reasonable to them. It's transactional, but both sides presumably know what they're getting into. When romance turns transactional. The boundary between genuine romance and pure transaction is constantly blurred in these encounters. Both sides sometimes deceive each other, or perhaps more accurately, both engage in a kind of mutual self-deception. Women tell themselves the man truly cares about them. Men convince themselves they're not just using someone. The truth usually lies somewhere uncomfortable in between. Local Gambian men who work in tourism have shared stories of heartbreak, describing how they developed real feelings for tourists who then disappeared without warning once their vacation ended. They never hear from these women again, left with empty promises and crushed hopes. On the other side, countless women have returned home believing they found true love, sending money for months or years, only to discover their partner was simultaneously involved with other tourists or had a local girlfriend the entire time. The transactional nature becomes most obvious when marriage enters the picture. Many relationships that seemed romantic suddenly shift once visa applications begin. Some men disappear immediately after obtaining European residency, revealing that their affection was entirely strategic. Real love or visa dreams. This brings up the question that hangs over every relationship formed in this context. Is it real love or just a visa strategy? For the women involved, this uncertainty is often agonizing. They want to believe in the romance, in the connection they felt on those sunny beaches. But doubt lingers. Was every word genuine, or was it all performance? British women in particular have reported experiences of marrying Gambian men who left them almost immediately after receiving citizenship. One woman's story made headlines when her husband abandoned her the moment he got his British passport. She had supported him financially throughout the visa process, believing they were building a life together. Instead, she discovered she'd been part of a plan that never included her beyond what she could provide. These stories aren't universal. Some relationships do result in lasting partnerships. Couples have built families and lives together across cultural boundaries. But the frequency of deception has created widespread skepticism. When economic desperation meets visa opportunities, the incentive to fake affection becomes enormous. Many Gambian men view marriage to a European woman as the single best chance to escape poverty, and that pressure can override any ethical concerns about honesty. The scale of female sex tourism. Just how common is this phenomenon? A survey conducted in 2023 revealed shocking numbers. 50% of Gambian men who regularly interact with tourists reported having had intimate encounters with European female visitors. 1 out of every 2 men involved in the tourism sector. That statistic alone demonstrates how normalized this has become. British, Dutch, and increasingly German women make up the largest groups of female tourists visiting Gambia. Some travel companies in these countries have even begun organizing special tours, though they're marketed around beaches and culture rather than openly promoting sexual tourism. Buses transport groups of women to coastal areas known for high concentrations of bumpsters, creating a kind of informal meet-and-greet system. The phenomenon has transformed parts of Gambian society and economy. For some families, a son who successfully connects with a European woman becomes the household's primary income source. The money sent back supports entire extended families, creating pressure on young men to pursue these relationships regardless of their personal feelings. Female sex tourism has quietly become one of Gambia's defining characteristics, known throughout West Africa and increasingly recognized internationally. What began in the 70s as a trickle has become a steady stream, year after year, of women seeking something they feel they can't find at home, and men hoping to find a way out of poverty through connection with them.